goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Poseidon Strength and Adidas Wrestling. Make sure you're using our discount codes at checkout when you visit those awesome sponsors. Shout out to also the schools that have used that discount code, particularly on Poseidon Strength, and gotten the Infinity Rope. Awesome programs that now get some awesome gear. As always, it's great to be joined by Robbie, Austin, and Kevin. I'm Holmes. We appreciate you guys joining for episode 22, Emmett Smith episode for all those 90s Cowboys fans. Please make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe. Also, love the comments that have been coming in. You guys have been coming pretty hot and heavy. Maybe it means that the season is coming up, or we're just doing a really damn good job in getting you guys engaged in the conversation. So please continue to keep doing that. You can also send us messages via social or email, whatever else. All our contact info is below. Today, we're going to dig into, first of all, a topic that we forgot to get into, which is LVWC. We said we were going to do that last week and completely missed it. But we'll also dig into the two-piece singlet, two-piece versus one-piece. What side of the fence do you fall on? I also have kind of a funny story around who's number one when it comes to that. We'll talk about Collegiate Duals because I will be there doing commentary with Sean Kenny as well as Cliff Fretwell. Will be the commentary team once again this year. Love working with Frank and that entire crew. It was in New Orleans one year. Now it's been in Nashville the last couple of years, and it's been awesome. Every single year it continues to get better and better. And then we'll also talk about this notion that maybe we need some new weight classes on the college scene. So there was a tweet that went out that we'll get into in the end of the show where it said, this is why, I guess, I'm paraphrasing, but this is why they need to add 2 new weights or something like that. So we'll dig into it. I'll read the exact tweet when we get to that. But yeah, it is another fun show that we're going to dig into. But first, let's start with the weigh-in. And for my weigh-in, I would like to give a shout out to the crew at Collegiate Duals. I know we're gonna discuss it and talk about it a little bit later. The whole crew and I should say the teams that are involved this year. But I want to give a shout out to the crew. Every single year, I get to work with Frank Pop. I get to work with Cliff Fretwell and the complete professional in Sean Kenny. And that man showed me what it was to prepare to do commentary and to have your shit together, for lack of a better term, when it comes to being on camera and knowing all your points and always being so fluid with it. Being on camera and doing commentary with Sean Kenny is amazing. He sets you up to knock things out of the park when it comes to asking questions and keeping the conversation going during commentary. And then also gives you, the great play-by-play. But can't say enough about Frank Pop. Literally every single year, he says, "You're my guys. I want you guys back every single year to do commentary, no matter what platform it is on." This year it is on Flow. Last year it was on Rockfin. So making sure that he does have us in there. So love working with those guys. And as I told you guys before we came on, he has checked with myself, Cliff Fretwell, and Sean Kenny multiple times to make sure that we don't have any scheduling conflicts and that we can still make it for that weekend, December 20th and 21st, and do commentary, which I'm really, really looking forward to, honestly. So shout out to those guys, and the whole Journeyman crew is always amazing, and I can't wait to get back to Nashville again this year and watch some good wrestling. I know last year we had some really awesome matches. It's where I was able to see Ben Davino for the first time in person and realized this dude is legit. And this year there's a really great group of teams that are coming, and I'm hopeful for even more great wrestling. Robbie, you're up next.
I'll run off of that about Sean Kenny real quick. We are very, very lucky to have him kind of heading up the coverage for the ACC, him and Rock, and they do a fantastic job every Friday night running Friday Night Duels, and just the people that both of them are. They're both great guys. I can't say enough good things about either of them, and the professionalism they come into it with, the influence they've had on some of the wrestlers who are doing commentary, like Trent Hidley, Mike Mock, do a fantastic job with them. And I think a large part of that is due to the professionalism that we see from the Friday Night Crew on ESPN and ACC Network. So very, very lucky to have those guys, and very well said about Sean. As far as my shout out, I want to shout out to a few different people. I think Flo, IA Wrestle, NE Wrestle, PA Power, anybody like that who's putting on these all-star events. They are fantastic. Like, growing up, we only had the Dapper Dan, and that was like the big deal. And now we have all these offshoots with, Night of Conflict, with Who's Number One, with Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic now being rebranded. Like, it's phenomenal to have these things and to see the high level wrestling that we have on the high school scene now, and to get these guys a national spotlight is fantastic. So shout out to them for these kind of events that we're getting to see on a regular basis now.
Yeah, and specifically, you say PA Power, Jeff Upson, Jeff
You
Upson.
can't. He's a cop. Don't say anything.
Yeah, listen, that man, he's always been my guy.
I love
And
Jeff.
so I gotta give him a specific shout out too. Just kind of piggyback off that, is he would always post all my articles and content when I was like a brand new journalist. I know people have said, "Oh, Holmes talks about being a journalist all the time." Like, you got to have like some support. And Jeff Upson was that guy for me when I was brand new to the Express Times, and I was like, what, 23, 24 years old. So shout out to Jeff Upson and those guys with PA Power. I know he's got probably a bigger crew now than what he had back then. It was, small website, and he has put in the work along with being a cop to do the things that he wants to do. And even back then,
That's a hell of an organization he's got.
He
going.
wasn't even a cop back then either. He was working towards becoming a cop. So hell of a job by him. That's a great shout out. Austin, on to you.
I'll give a shout out here, but before I do that, I want to give a little self plug. I am working through EIWA preseason content right now. That'll come out in the EIWA newsletter. That's kind of our main communication there. So if you need added to that, let me know. Shoot me an email, DM me, whatever it is. But as I was looking through some of the preseason content, putting together, looking at class of 2026 recruiting rankings, Flow Wrestling had them, and there are two EIWA teams in the top 10. Lehigh came in at number 6, and maybe a surprise to some people, number 5 was Army West Point. They had 1 recruit in the top 25 and 6 in the top 100. Lehigh had 2 in the top 25 and 4 in the top 100. Just goes to show you, Army is, they're a serious contender to start and take over the EIWA conference here. And they got a new coaching change over the summer, so Coach Ward, Coach Green, putting in the hard work, getting the recruiting trail down, always improving on that class ranking. Now they're a top 5 program in the entire nation, right? You got Oklahoma State, VTech, Michigan, and Penn State all ahead of them. Those are big time schools. To see a program like Army in there just speaks volumes to their ability to recruit and how much faith they have, the students have in the program there. So excited for a new EIWA season. Check my preseason content coming out at the end of October or early November, wherever I can get that out.
Nice. That shout out is for you, Cornell Kevin. You better be on that newsletter list of people.
I'm sure he is already. If not, big trouble.
Big trouble. He sent me a DM once that was very, very long after we shouted him out in an episode. And I know I have not responded to it yet, mostly because I'm still reading it. It was super long.
What chapter are you on?
I know. I was like, goodness gracious, my man wrote a novel, but I love it because he's super in depth with everything and he comes correct with it. As did another commenter. I wish I had it up in front of me right now, but he, we dug back into RAF last week and he left us a good novel in the comments too, which was honestly awesome. Like I said, we love seeing that stuff, whether it's long, short comments, whatever it is, but just getting into the conversation. Professor Kev, bring it on home.
Yeah, no, just to touch on that too. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed about working with you guys over the years is just in general, like we're open to changing our minds on ideas and thoughts. It seems crazy that talking heads would be able to have perspective and nuance with their opinions. But I like to think we all do that. So yeah, any comments and thoughts are always appreciated. I'm going to do a plug as well. It just dropped, was it today or yesterday? But my interview with Cody Walters of Ohio was super fun. He's a guy that over the years I've really wanted to talk to. And before the interview started, I told him, there's a handful of people that over the years I was rooting against. And then after a while, I was like, damn it, this guy's just good. And I really like him. And I'm past the respect point to where now I'm just like, man, this guy's awesome. So really fun guy to talk to, really probably a fun interview for people to listen to. We talked about his recruiting, and it was interesting. I didn't know that he was like, just a quick spoiler, he was like really wanting to go to Kent State. Kent State at the time was like a beast of a program, and he had a connection there, and it just never happened. They never really recruited him or went after him. And so then he vowed to never lose to a Kent State kid. And I don't remember if I asked him if he did or not, but I know he was a 3-time All-American and an All-American as a freshman. So probably not would be my guess. So yeah, dude was a beast, and super fun interview. So check that out.
Yeah, it was really cool. I had a chance to meet Cody Walters for the first time when I was back at Flow. He was one of Kyle Bradkey's teammates when they were at Ohio. And, Bradkey, awesome guy. He's the director of ops right now at West Virginia. And, that Ohio crew, I mean, Greenlee's also amazing. He's so
And a
damn funny.
fantastic mustache.
So damn funny. That entire crew,
Just
like,
incredible.
you're like, I wish I had known these guys earlier, right? Like I would do. That's a group of guys that I wish I would have been able to go to college with. But yeah, it was an awesome interview. If you haven't watched it yet or listened to it, head on over to, if you're watching this on Spotify, you got to go over to YouTube to watch it and listen to it. Since that's the only place that we put any of our interviews. But I will go back and put the interviews up as well. At some point, it's just they've only made it over to YouTube right now, but we will have, for anyone that wants to listen to the Trent Hidley interview. And then we're going to have a really cool one next week as well that I'll make sure gets over to that Spotify channel. Little plug there for next week's episode, where we're going to have
Little
somebody
teasers.
cool.
I like
Shout out to Kevin for getting this one. And I'm hopeful this is a repeat guest as well that we have on next week's show as we go throughout the season.
Could be a good one.
He comes on from time to time to kind of give his perspective on things. So great shout outs. Awesome way to start the show. Now let's get into our topics, and we're going to rely on the EIW man himself, Austin, in this case. So LVWC is making some moves, and I want to go over to Austin to get his initial thoughts on everything that Lehigh has been doing and the guys that they've been signing to their RTC.
Yeah, well, they just signed Nate Tomasello. What was that, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago now? Like I said, we forgot to mention it last week.
The lightweight champion of RAF.
The world.
Of RAF,
apparently.
yeah. And it's funny because I was going to mention, he's been kind of bouncing around, helping out coaching. He was at Duke for a season or two, right? He was at Cal Baptist, and he was somewhere else. I forget where, maybe Pitt or something like that. That could be wrong, but he kind of found a home now at the Lehigh Valley Wrestling Club, and really going to help out those younger weights. Darian Cruz was a big person to have there. He wrestled through Lehigh, NCAA champ, 3-time All-American, started representing Puerto Rico on the world stage. Then now he's actually now at Penn RTC. So, kind of moving down the street a little bit. So got to find someone to fill that void there in the lower weights. And I think Tomasello is a good pick. Before RAF, no one really, maybe I just lost track of him. Wasn't sure where he was coaching, and then looked really good at RAF, and then boom, now we signed with the Lehigh Valley Wrestling Club, so we talk about RAF a lot, and if it is one thing, it kind of keeps these guys motivated to keep on competing, keep on coaching, whatever route they want to go. So it's pretty cool to see him, and obviously Kirk Fleet signing there a few weeks ago as well. Kind of the upper and lower weights, they're getting checked off the list here, and it's going to be good stuff moving forward for Lehigh and the Lehigh Valley Wrestling Club together.
Yeah. Kevin, your thoughts on LVWC's latest signings?
I mean, those are big pickups. Like Austin said, I mean, one bigger than the other, certainly, but just having veteran guys like that, having people who can say that they've been there and done it, and this is how it's done, right? I mean, they've already got, it seems like a very disciplined group of guys in that room. I mean, their roster in general is full of studs, top to bottom. I think that it's going to be really, really huge for them. Anytime your RTC can have big names like that, that produce and are still on the scene is nothing but beneficial. And I know that whole staff has high hopes for what they're going to be able to do this year. So assuming good health and everything else, I mean, this is great for everybody involved in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah. Robbie?
I mean, they've done a great job across the board, coaching staff as well. I mean, they have a solid women's team that's really benefited the startup of the Lehigh program. That they've been running for a few years. I know Kerry McCoy is a big part of that. Mike Mock's been stellar in his run the last couple of years. Hair looks fantastic as always. Ben Honus is there, right? Still.
Mm-hmm.
He's competing for Italy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Giuseppe
Yeah, he
Reyes
is.
there competes for Ecuador, right? So they've got a good. Is Jordan Wood still competing, or is he just?
Yeah,
He's
he's
still
on the
competing,
roster
yeah.
helping out. Okay.
Yep.
So I mean, they've got some depth there, and they've done a great job in adding, Tomasello and Kirkley to it. Is some strong bookends there. So I like what I see there. They're certainly putting the money into it. They're committed to building the RTC, which a lot of places aren't anymore. And you've seen some fall off with that when NIL became a bigger thing, less money was going towards RTCs. And it's nice to see that some places are still really committed to that and want to have the freestyle side be supported.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited, being a Lehigh Valley guy, I'm pretty excited, obviously, to see things growing in the Lehigh Valley. I'm wearing another school in the Lehigh Valley, Muhlenberg Division III school right now. And,
My buddy coaches football there.
my best friend is assistant coach at Muhlenberg right now, Andrew Drake. And, I've mentioned him a number of times. Him and my friend Angelo DeLeo went to Wilkes with those guys. Giuseppe Ray also went to Wilkes and was an All-American there too. So, and he's the assistant women's coach now. So obviously a lot of ties, to every single one of those guys around the Lehigh Valley, not just my family, but tons of friends and guys that I consider to be, either family or very close to it. And seeing how things are growing with LVWC, you see the absence of Darian Cruz, who's now, with Matt Valenti at Penn, and he's, not just competing for Penn RTC, but he's also coaching as well. It's awesome to see, right? But then you look at, like you said, you mentioned the coaching staff. They signed Chenzo, and then the next one is Kirkfleet, and then the next one is NATO. So it's just picking up these pieces very, very slowly. And, Robbie, you mentioned RTCs actually putting that money into growing their own RTC, and that not many are doing that. One of the other ones that comes to mind that you wouldn't think it was a parallel with these two schools would be Lehigh and Oklahoma State. It looks like they're both on that same, we're going to invest in our RTC, because if we invest in our RTC, we inevitably invest in our university. And I love the outlook that David Taylor has. I mean, I think, we'll get a chance to discuss it maybe next week, but they have another duel that is coming up with France, a freestyle duel that is coming up with France. And this time they actually, kind of let people know that the duel is going to be happening. It's not just an exclusive one for donors.
Gave
or
us
anything
more than
else
a
like
day
that.
notice.
Right. So this time people can kind of tune in. I think tune in. I haven't seen links or anything. Maybe I'm just kind of missing it. Right. I'm not attached to Twitter all day long, but seeing them put money into the RTCs is huge, because as I said, you start to see the universities pick up better and better recruits, because it's no longer just about what can we do for the 4 or 5, or in some cases 8 years, I guess, that guys are on campus trying to win national titles. I say 8 years, obviously hyperbolically, but the COVID years really kind of exploded things. But it's not just about winning a national title anymore. It's more so, maybe not more so, but in essence, it's a lot of it is about doing things on that national scene, that world level. And it's more about, okay, well, this is great. I want to win a national title, but I want to be a world champ. And that infusion, we talked about that before, of like the Henry Cejudo, Kyle Snyder, Jordan Burroughs kind of infusion of talent that is now looking past college, or at least saying, it's the guys on the world stage that I'm after, as well as these guys domestically. And I think Lehigh is really trying to put in the work and the money to bring in the best coaches to do that with Chenzo. We know it was kind of a roundabout way because Sasso was slated to go there. I honestly do think that Sasso is going to end up at Rutgers right now. I think he's been there a couple of times. He's wearing Rutgers t-shirts and stuff in some of his posts. So, I mean, maybe that happens. There's a little bit of chatter about it, but you're seeing, Chenzo being added. You're seeing Kirkfleet being added. You're seeing NATO being added. As I said, Giuseppe Ray, not just competing for LVWC. He's now an assistant women's coach. And we also saw them put a woman, one of the women on the women's national team, the senior level national team this year. So the investment is happening at LVWC, and it is on every single level. Austin, you've alluded to how great they're looking as a team with Standish coming back, and some of these guys that were in redshirt last year, and also want to come back to you with them putting the investment into the RTC. How do you feel like that not just lifts the university, but how does that keep these guys around and, continuing to elevate these teams, not just in Lehigh Valley, not just in the Lehigh room, but in the Lehigh Valley itself?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that too, because I know they spent a lot of money in this offseason sending the current Lehigh wrestlers to train in Japan for a week or two, and that was through the LVWC, right? So they're getting this experience, getting to travel and work out with the Japan team, who's no joke, right? And those guys come back and they relay this kind of talent and these different techniques and whatever else they have with some of the local guys there. And as we know, District 11, Holmes, we might be biased, one of the best wrestling in the country, right? So Lehigh is in the backyard of District 11, so you have all these studs, and it's definitely showing off in the recruiting, kind of to your point, where they're starting to get a lot of these local guys to stay home at Lehigh because they're so comfortable with the staff, with the culture that they're building at Lehigh, because they're there so often, for RTC practices all year round, not just in the off season. So it's kind of full circle where you get these good coaches, these good resident athletes. They mentor the young guys and they start growing up fans of Lehigh wrestling, and they're committing there, they're on the team, and it just, like I said, it keeps going full circle with it, and they're doing a great job of it. And, it's just going to keep getting better from here.
Yeah. Robbie, you mentioned investing in RTCs and that there aren't many teams that are doing it. Obviously we talked about Oklahoma State. In the ACC, is there some sort of parallel to this in the ACC that you're seeing as well?
Yes and no. I think that a lot of the schools are doing a great job with utilizing the RTC for freestyle opportunities for their current roster. But as far as bringing people on as full-time athletes, it's not as consistent. And North Carolina's brought a few guys on. Virginia Tech has Jordan Oliver coming down a lot, but he's not technically a SERTC athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them are leveraging the RTC to provide opportunities. Like Caleb Henson went to Japan as well this summer, and there's been I feel like a lot of them have guys who are competing for other countries who are using the room to train. But more so it's the current athletes on roster just getting more opportunities than they would have otherwise. So they're still benefiting from the RTC, but it's not the same post-grad opportunities necessarily as much so as we're seeing at Lehigh. Like Bryce Andonian's still on roster for SERTC.
And obviously Trent Hidley winning a world title at NC State.
Right. That one's a big one too. But like that's guys who are already on roster. So it's not guys coming in from other schools and other programs like we're seeing at Lehigh. I guess that's more of my thought process there.
Yeah, I just knew that the comments would be like, well, Trent Hidley just won a world title, so I figured I'd mention it.
He's all right. I like Trent. He's okay.
He's all right. We had him on the show. Make sure you've watched either the show or the interview with Trent. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, Kevin, and I want to get your thoughts on just like RTCs in general and how you've seen the infusion of, I guess, investment with RTCs and how NIL changed. I know we talked about NIL being a big factor, but now you're seeing teams like Oklahoma State and LVWC and I mean even Penn State for that matter, I mean, I'm sure that there is some sort of NIL factor at Penn State, obviously, but you are seeing, at least at one point, you were seeing a lot more invested into the RTC at Penn State with the, signings of Dake and obviously Taylor, who was already there, but Dake and Snyder both coming on. When you look at RTCs, do you see them as like a recruiting arm for teams now?
Oh, absolutely. I think they do. And I think where, I don't know, I go back to, I mean, I'm literally wearing a Northern Illinois shirt right now, right? So I'm looking at this through the lens of like the teams that don't necessarily have RTCs are maybe sending guys to some of these tournaments and, occasionally having some success, but clearly, like, the big programs, the big conferences, the ones that are investing are the ones who are getting most of the talent. And, sometimes you see that talent transfer to other programs and whatnot, but like, there's no question the MAC, not that long ago, I mean, back when Cody Walters was there, was one of the top 3 conferences. And people might hear that and think that that's insane, but it's like the Big 12 had like 6 teams at the time. NIU, Missouri was there. Central Michigan was still really good. There's a lot of things that had gone on with the MAC where I think a lot of it does have to do with RTCs or lack thereof with a lot of the programs remaining there. So, no excuses, play like a champion. But all I know is that, thank you. All I know is that, like, yeah, I mean, clearly these are huge recruiting tactics. If you're trying to get the top kids, you're going to get them with something like this. And with names like Dake and Taylor, and I know Taylor's at Oklahoma State, but the point remains, even like a Spencer Lee, right, with Iowa. So there's definitely advantages to having them and investing in them and making sure that they are part of your recruiting pitch to these kids.
What's funny is you bring up Iowa, and they've been more active on the college scene than they've been on the RTC scene, which is, for me, it's kind of confusing, I guess, right? Like, I understand wanting to invest as much as you do in Spencer Lee, but if he's the only guy you're really investing in, then do you have like a full team, or is it just like, we're here just to support Spencer, right? Like, that's the thing for me, is it's confusing because you're seeing LVWC put in, or at least maybe make more signings than you're seeing Iowa. And Oklahoma State is obviously continuing to climb with what they're doing on the RTC lens and putting together these freestyle duels and trying to make sure that the accolades on the world stage are bigger than the ones on the NCAA stage. But all that time that is being put in, you're obviously seeing it, right? Hamody's an NCAA champion right now. So that's pretty crazy to see. Like, Iowa isn't putting in near as much work, and maybe they're just not getting the signings, and I'm just completely naive to it. But you're seeing more of these guys head, at least recently, LVWC has pulled in more of this talent than Iowa has.
I think so. Clearly there's probably something to do with them trying to go out and bring people in, right? Or a lack thereof that, I would assume. They're still doing very well, obviously, on the high school recruiting side of things. So, but I think that's more of a reflection of there's not any room on their staff to bring in somebody new. Like, they've had the same coaching staff there for a very long time. Maybe
They've
even
got the money to bring other people in the RTC side. That's
okay. Maybe that's the case, but that's not even what I was referring to. I was more referring to the other side. But the other thing is, how many of the recent Iowa grads were you like, man, they're going to tear it up on the freestyle scene? I think maybe Alex Marinelli was a guy I thought was going to stick around a little bit harder in that scene, and really hasn't done it. Outside of that, you kind of have Spencer.
Yeah, DeSanto's around, but he's not making world teams or, dominating like Spencer, obviously. So, yeah, I agree with you.
And Real Woods left.
Yeah.
He went to Michigan.
He sure did. So, thanks for bringing that up.
Cliff Keen's another one to mention with that, though.
Yeah.
Too, like they continue to broaden their roster and pull guys in from other schools, other countries to, add depth, to add experience, to give other practice partners to their guys. So it's just a matter of whether you're investing in the RTC as a whole to be a competitive program, or you're using it as, an offshoot of the college program for opportunities for your current wrestlers. And it's been such a huge shift in the last decade because, 10 years ago, if you didn't have a good RTC, you weren't going to get any of the top recruits. Like, you needed to have a legit option for them to pursue freestyle goals. And now we're not seeing that being as important, or doesn't seem to be as important as, what are we doing for, outside money options instead of scholarship.
Well, and one thing too that obviously Cliff Keen has done, they have a combination of domestic and international athletes training there, which may or may not be fair for me to say, but doesn't seem like that would be the philosophy of a Hawkeye Wrestling Club, right? Like, so
Yeah, that's fair. I think,
you know,
maybe
I mean,
fair or not, it seems to be accurate.
it's
Right.
it's historically not been the case there, right? So maybe that's more fair to say. So, but I think it's just about your approach and how you want to go about it. I think I'm not concerned with Iowa's future; they'll be fine. But
No.
that's just kind of my surface level, quick thinking of maybe why or why not Iowa's not invested as heavily in from the outside.
Yeah, it's been more about, I mean, over the last couple of years, right? We're talking more about Ja'Cory Teamer coming on the team, right? We're talking more about the guys that are leaving their teams and headed off to Iowa to join from an NCAA level, not so much from an RTC level, right? So
And with the money we heard that they get, that could completely fund a full-time athlete for a year plus. And
yeah, if
that's
those rumors are certainly true about, I mean, let's take the I hate to beat a dead horse, but like let's take the Bo Bassett case, right? Like everybody was in the rumor mill about how much money he was supposedly getting paid and all this and all that. And, I won't be one to say this is true or that's true, whatever else. But if you just indulge in that conversation for a second and say, well, the money that they were supposed to be paying Bo Bassett over the course of however many years or whatever else, they could certainly have brought in a guy for the RTC
or 9.
or a couple of them, right? So I feel like it's and maybe that's just Iowa's way of investing more on the collegiate side than on the RTC side. But when you look at the history of it, right, you've got Tony Ramos there, and he leaves as Gilman becomes the guy at 57. And then you have Gilman there, and he leaves as Spencer Lee becomes the guy, or at least the next coming of what's going to be at 57. So it kind of makes you scratch your head and say, well, why not? I understandably they've had great lower weights, but like, is another guy going to get? Is Spencer going to get pushed out, or is another guy going to get essentially pushed out because of having a stockpile of future 57 kilogram national team or world team athletes? So that's, I know we went off on a tangent. We started with LVWC and ended up with Lehigh, ended up with Iowa, but still very interesting to kind of look at the investment that is happening with RTCs. If I'm a coach, I guess I'm going more the David Taylor route than anything, where I want to invest in my RTC and bring in top level talent, because inevitably if you're bringing in top level talent in the world to compete with your guys on an RTC level, and all your guys are already signed to your RTC or part of your RTC, I mean, it's probably going to make your collegiate athletes even better too. So I think that the investment in the RTC is probably where it's at for a lot of teams, but it is surprising to see a Lehigh basically out signing guys, and not to say that there's competition between Lehigh and Iowa, but you would think that with the money that is supposedly in play at Iowa, that they would be, I guess, making more traction when it comes to signing guys.
Yeah, and to circle back on the class of 26 recruiting rankings, Iowa's number 11, and that's based on one top 15 guy in Mako. So Iowa, number 11, you would tend to think that should be higher. They're good, good track record of recruiting pretty high. So I don't know if that's kind of the tangent we went off is related to that or if it's unrelated, but it's just
I
interesting
think
to
it
know.
is.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a different way to look at it too. Like if we're talking, take the Bassett example, you know, that can be looked at as you're spending money both on your current roster and on your RTC because you're talking about a guy who's, age level world champ and has senior level goals and aspirations. So that money that you're putting into him to bring him onto your roster is also going towards your RTC. So for a situation like that, fantastic. That's a good investment on both sides. But then you have guys that aren't don't have those don't have freestyle senior level goals. If you're still spending that money on them, it's not benefiting your RTC. So and then you have guys who aren't on the roster at all in college and are getting paid. So there's just different pools of money and different schools of thought with which to approach them.
Don't forget the 250-mile radius rule.
Is no longer there.
Let's see if it changes.
Stupid ass rule in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, that goes into recruiting as well completely. I mean, that's the reason behind it, but it is what it is.
That is a weird thing for wrestling though. Like, and I know we kind of hit on it the first time we talked about it, but that effectively gives you an opportunity for a recruit to work out with your current team. That doesn't happen in any other sport. It's such a weird idea of, okay, cool, those football recruits in town, we're going to throw him in a 7-on-7 drill. We'll see how he looks. But in wrestling, we can legitimately do that now. Like, oh, we're going to have an RTC practice and this guy can go. And we'll see what he looks like up against some legit talent. We'll see how he fits into our system. It's such a weird dynamic that we have that other sports don't have.
And the coaches get involved too on the mat, which other sports don't have as well, right?
Only if they're RTC coaches, though.
Yeah.
True. Sorry.
Make sure they're bronze certified. Damn it.
Yep. So
RTC
coaches. So many certifications and things. I mean, to juxtapose that with football though, the one thing that was interesting to me when I was looking at like rule changes and roster caps and stuff was the I guess it's kind of like the infinite coach rule, that if you want to call it that. And it's where you can now, so what it used to be was if a coach was an analyst, right, you can bring in however many analysts that you want, right? So, this coach gets fired. He's now on staff at a new school as a defensive analyst. But all he could do was be part of meetings, but he can't actually coach the players. So he can watch practice, he can watch film, he can break things down, relay his thoughts to the position coach, whatever else, have conversations with the coaches, but he can't actually hands-on coach. And that's how it used to be. What changed was now if you have the title of an analyst, you can now also coach players. So you don't just have your linebacker coach or your defensive coordinator. You have your defensive coordinator, your linebacker coach, and however many analysts. So if you have, let's say you have Ray Lewis that you want to sign as your linebacker analyst, and he's going to work with one player, he's allowed to do that now. So like that's the difference. Like we talk about the difference in wrestling and how these RTC coaches, if they are RTC coaches and they're certified, they can now get on the mat with a recruit that comes in from thousands of miles away to train with an athlete or whatever else. Football wise, they have things like that, right? And like I said, I don't know if I know that was part of the proposal, and I'm pretty sure it's probably in the mix right now. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I'm like 85-90% sure that is a thing now. If you are an analyst, you can now coach the players. So there's some very weird dynamics that go on in college sports, depending on the sport, that are really, really interesting. But yeah, let's jump to, I guess, high school wrestling in a sense. And who's number one just happened, was that last week? And the conversations about two-piece singlet versus traditional singlet have come back up. And before we jump into it, I have like kind of a story of Flo moving from the traditional singlet to the two-piece singlet. My first day at Flow, October 6th, 2014. I'll never forget it. I sit next to Willie, getting my computer all set up and everything else. And Martin comes down, and it's like me, and it's Willie, Nick Veliket, who I believe still works with Martin at Rockfin. I think Bader was involved, Joe Flo, and mind you, we're 2 weeks from Who's Number One happening at Lehigh. I think it was like the fourth one, something like that. So the previous years they had singlets, and they were, green singlets, black singlets. They were pretty cool. And this was going to be the first year, potentially the first year, for two-piece singlets. And this is my first day, and an argument breaks out of, no, we can't go with two-piece. Those are stupid. No kid wants to wear those. I'm sure there was some other choice language that was going on in the Flow office at that point. But like, we're all kind of going back and forth. Like I said, this is my first day, so I don't know anyone but Willie and Joe Flo, who I had interviewed with at this point. And Martin points to me, and I had just met him 5 minutes ago, and he goes, "What do you think?" And I go, "I don't know. I don't know anything." And he goes, "Who the hell even are you?" And I was just like frozen. Like, this was brand new atmosphere and everything. And this argument is going on for what seemed like a half hour. It was probably like 30 seconds, but everybody's just screaming at each other, yelling at each other about singlets versus two-piece. Martin was team two-piece. Inevitably, the two-piece was then born at Who's Number One. And back then, Christian Piles he was still living in Virginia at that point. So he was always on like a FaceTime call with Willie, like all day long. They were on this call. So like, and you would never know that Piles was there. You'd be talking to Willie, and all of a sudden Piles would come out of nowhere, and you'd hear his voice on the computer or whatever else. And like, Piles is trying to get a word in. Nobody's listening to him. You just hear him coming through the speakers of Willie. It was like chaos all over the two-piece singlet versus the normal traditional singlet. And that was, like I said, 2014. And now we're still going back and forth, and people are like, no, the singlet is tradition. In wrestling, we're traditionalists, we're this, we're that, whatever. And I feel like more people over the years have come over to the side of the two-piece. And you've seen college teams kind of do it, where it's not so much fight shorts, but it's compression shorts and a compression top, which still kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like, we're trying to get away from that compression style thing, at least when it comes to the shorts. And we're still debating this. At that point, I wasn't sure which was better or whatever else. The argument for it was, we're trying to bring more merch sales essentially into Who's Number One, where we want jerseys, and we want people to have an identical potential jersey to this compression top, or rash guard, as a lot of people call it with jiu-jitsu. At this point, I feel like, as many people have said, like, it's the barrier to entry for a lot of kids. They don't want to wear a singlet. And people will equate it and say, well, the kids just have to toughen up. That's the uniform, whatever. I think there should be an option. I don't think either one should be required at this point. I know you're kind of running foul of the singlet rules that Nebraska did last year, when they had two red singlets and different font on them and lost a team point. I can't remember what duel that was. Maybe it was like Iowa or Michigan or something like that. But I think that there should be an option, right? Like, you have a kid that wants to wear fight shorts and a compression top as opposed to a singlet, you allow them to do that. And I think we get over that hurdle if there's an option, instead of saying one or the other. And I know that's kind of a cop out, I guess, but like, I think we're to the point now where we can start to lower that barrier of entry into the sport, where, honestly, truth be told, my first wrestling match ever was like a t-shirt and shorts, right? Like, it wasn't wearing a singlet. You're like 5 years old. They're like, just go wrestle. Right. So like, if kids are comfortable wearing that, why not allow them to continue wearing it? Especially because they are watching the UFC, where guys are for the most part, they're wearing compression shorts, but they can also wear fight shorts, right? They have an option. And there's a number of other sports where they now have options. Jiu-jitsu, most guys are wearing the same thing that they're wearing in Who's Number One. So I don't know. There have been guys over the years that tried to kind of skirt that. I think it was like RBY one year decided he was just going to go with his compression shorts and his top. And I mean, you can remember who was it? I can't remember. I should remember, but guys that were just like took off their shirts back in the day. I think McFadden and who was it? Isaiah White did did just the fight shorts back then. So yeah, I mean we've seen it in many different ways, but I think that barrier to entry is what we're trying to get over. And on the women's side, we are seeing more girls come into the sport, which is great. But on the men's side, I don't know if that number is continuing to grow or not. I have to do a little bit more research on it, but I mean, two-piece singlet is kind of the way to go these days, and some of them are honestly pretty cool. Robbie, what are your thoughts?
So as far as youth wrestling through high school wrestling, I coached high school for 15 years before I got out of it and started doing this media stuff. And I can count dozens and dozens of kids who told me no because they didn't want to come out for wrestling because they didn't want to wear the onesie. And it gets called a onesie a lot.
Or leotard.
And cool. Yeah, or leotard. Yeah. And I get it. Like, I mean, I remember, being in middle school or being in high school or being self-conscious because I was a chubby kid in a singlet. And I was used to it and it didn't bother me to wear it, but like still very self-conscious because that's how you feel as a, middle and high school kid. So like, I get it. And anything that stands in the way of people participating in the sport that we all truly love and know the benefits of and can enumerate that over and over again of all the good things we get out of this sport. Why would we want something as stupid as a piece of spandex to stand in the way of more people doing it? And if you want to get into uniformity and uniforms, like being the same, cool. Have the same design for a singlet and a two-piece. They can be the same color. They can have the same emblems. They can look exactly the same, except be in different formats. It's not a big deal. Like, I don't get it. I used to host a tournament at one of the schools that I was at, and this was right before I got married. I asked my wife to help. My now wife, she wasn't then at the time. I asked her to help run a table because I needed somebody, and somebody backed out last minute, so she ran a clock for me. And I remember, catching up with her midway through the day, and she's like, "I'm seeing way too many high school kids' balls, and I don't like this." I was like, "Yeah, I completely understand." And like, so not
what
only
number
from
was too many? I imagine it's got to be an even number, I would think.
Yeah, one would hope. One would hope. I have a story about that. A guy we used to call five balls, but that's a whole other story. That's probably not appropriate for radio. But like anything we can do to get more people out there, I say do it. I mean, the cost is the same, if not cheaper for at this point to have a two-piece. Every uniform company has multiple options with it. It's a stupid ass rule that we're so stuck on. Now, as far as college guys go, you're so entrenched in the sport at that point. If you want to wear a singlet, fine, cool. I don't have any issue with that. But as far as youth wrestling and high school wrestling, I think it should at least be a legitimate option, and every team should have that as an option, so we don't have that barrier that we don't need. And then you look at like the McBride sisters at Life, like they're going out of their way to try to design new options for uniforms so they can continue to participate and participate internationally and get that approved. Like there's things like that there's no reason. Those girls are fucking badasses. Like, why are we stopping them from murking people on the international scene because of a uniform rule? Like, get that shit out of the way. Let people participate. We want more people in the sport. Stop gatekeeping and letting something stupid stand in the way.
Agreed. Austin?
Yeah, back when the argument originally happened, I was young and I kind of was on that same thought process of, oh, it's a singlet. If you don't want to wear one, maybe you're not cut out for the sport anyway, right? I think that was the argument that Holmes kind of brought up, and I kind of felt more towards that. And now in my older and I like to think wiser years, I've come around to pretty much agree with Robbie. It's like, hey, if you don't want to wear the singlet, you want to wear the two-piece, whatever. It shouldn't really matter as long as the design's there and there's some kind of uniform, uniformity in the uniform, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And because you don't want a guy coming out with a saggy t-shirt and one guy has compression, right? You kind of need the same kind of style shirt, top, bottoms, whatever they are. So yeah, it shouldn't affect people not coming out. I think that's a silly way to prevent people from wrestling if they were on the fence about it and that's the final straw. Okay, eliminate that. I agree with what you guys are saying, and I prefer the singlet personally, but I don't have a problem if someone wants to do the two piece. It doesn't bother me anyway.
Yeah, we've seen college teams do it too. I mean, Arizona State has a number of them. Missouri, I
Mizzou
like
does it a lot.
Missouri's. Yeah, they have a couple of them. They're pretty cool. Kevin, your thoughts?
So the first thought is I didn't know that they wanted to sell the stupid who's number one jerseys, like the two pieces.
It was a thought.
Okay, they never did it because I feel like you have to earn that. That's how you get it, right? You make the thing.
It was more of like a merch like t-shirt kind of a thing where it wasn't the identical compression top. It was like a soccer jersey, but it had like who's number one, and it would had like RB, like basically getting RBY's who's number one jersey, right? Like that's what the concept of that conversation was like.
I think
Having a high school kid's jersey is a little fucking weird anyway. but
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
whole other
yeah,
issue.
right. Like, yeah. Anyway, it's and it's funny too because you know who definitely doesn't care about singlets? The kids who are wrestling in who's number one.
Yeah.
They're not worried about the two piece versus the singlet. I remember Johnny Sebastian was rocking the who's number one singlet at the MSU Open, I think his freshman year when he was redshirting, and I was like, that's badass. I will say before I make myself sound old, I'm totally on board for like, hey, if you need some sort of a thing other than the singlet, wear it, right? I coach youth sports or I coach youth wrestling, and I get it. Some kids don't want to wear the singlet. You know what though? Pretty much all of our kids on the team wear the singlet, and they're fine with it. You usually get past it. It's we never make kids wear the singlet. If you want to wear shorts and a t-shirt, like we don't have two pieces. And so we can't even offer it. But we're like, if you want to wear shorts and a t-shirt, you can absolutely do that. That's fine. But I do think there's something to be said about like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry you don't like wearing your football pants, but you know what you have to wear? Football pants, because you're playing football.
Yeah.
All right. It's like, oh, these are uncomfortable. It makes my butt feel weird with this pad in it. It's like, well, you know what? Without it, it's going to hurt a lot because you're going to get absolutely destroyed. No, I know that there's a difference between wearing pads and singlets and whatnot, but I don't know. At some level, sports require certain uniforms, and that's why you wear those things.
I think the argument becomes like though, like what is there's no benefit to a singlet over that where there is a benefit to wearing a helmet and shoulder pads. You don't die.
There,
Kind of
so
important.
True, and I see your argument, and I raise you that I disagree. I think there is a benefit. Singlets look badass. I think they look more badass than two-piece uniforms. So
I wore a singlet in a triathlon once, so there's that.
there you go. I wore it to the
Better
bar
than riding
once.
shorts.
We had
got me beat.
we had a it was like sports themed date party, and my date, who is now my wife,
I was gonna say, and that's how I met your mother.
Right? Yeah, exactly. She was like a volleyball player or something, or beach volleyball player, and I just wore my singlet, and I had a headgear, and I wore wrestling shoes, and it was a great time.
You're telling me you passed up an opportunity to wear a thong bikini to a bar. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I did. I didn't have that on hand. I had the.
It was at the cleaners. It was in the wash.
It was in the wash.
The dry cleaner.
It was a busy weekend, so.
Yeah. No,
But yeah.
I do think that the singlet is badass, though. I will say that. Like, it is. And
I will have no singlet slander on here. Let me put it that way. I'm fine
I think
inviting people in, but you can.
I think you're right too. And I think what you see with high school kids too, and from my experience, this is what I saw a lot is the kids that were hesitant to wear a singlet at first and started with a two-piece. Like as soon as they felt more comfortable and were getting that benefit and self-confidence that comes with being a wrestler, like it wasn't an issue anymore.
Yeah.
So, but they wouldn't have gotten to that point had they not had the opportunity to bridge that gap. And there's no reason we shouldn't be able to do that for people. Like let's get people involved. If it's right for them, they'll stick it out, and eventually they'll probably end up wearing singlets.
Yeah. I think you don't see, I think it's a very small portion of kids that worry about singlet versus two piece. But I think
That
the
tells me you didn't
fans,
grow up as a fat kid. That's what tells me.
yes, but hey, listen, I had some chubby friends. They didn't worry about the singlet. And back then, the singlets were not as stretchy as they are now.
That's true. And they also had the feet cut, so your nipples
Yeah.
would hang out.
Yeah.
So
There was that, there were those. But there was also those, those polyester singlets
those things
that
are
had
so
like
itchy.
Yeah.
no stretch. And I
Mhm.
remember ours had, it said Wilson down it, but they were all like stitched and super itchy. And like, they were just horrible singlets. They were
Did
just,
they have the chalk pinstripes? Because those were awesome.
um, no,
Those were
we did have a
I
singlet
had a
that had
Wyoming singlet with
the three
those. They're
stripes
pretty
across.
badass.
Yeah. Yeah. And those were like super thin. So like, I feel like now they finally like got the singlet right. But like we had like super thick singlets. We had like those old school like polyester ones that were just horrible. And then there was some others that were really thin. We had a white
Can
singlet
I
at one
also,
point.
while
Just
we're on
not good.
while we're on the discussion of singlets, can I also say that we should limit the amount of people who are allowed to wear white singlets? Um, and let's put a focus on those and limit the usage of those because I've
I've seen
just
too much
too
is I think
much,
the end of your statement.
too much, and too many booty stains, and it's not what we need.
Yeah, at least
No.
wear underwear if you're gonna wear white singlets. People that
Yeah.
don't do that are they're they're risky.
Did I ever tell you guys the story about when one of my kids pooped his pants during a match?
Jesus.
No.
Poor
No,
This
kid.
is a
Your
tangent we're going
coach at
off on.
Hofstra?
I've seen it happen
No,
twice in front of my eyes,
no.
and that was on.
Luckily, it was a black singlet. He came up to me. He asked for injury time. He came up. He said, Coach, I shit my pants." I was like, "All right." So I called the ref over. I was like, "He said he shit his pants." He's like, "All right, I guess start injury
Start
time. Do you have
injury
another
time.
singlet?"
Oh
Yeah, I
man.
got another singlet. So he ran to the back storage room of this. It's like a brand new school. Ran to the back storage room of it, stripped his singlet off, threw it against the wall,
Oh,
and doo-doo stain coming down the wall. Throws another singlet on, gets back out there with like 15 seconds left of injury time, goes out and sticks the kid in like 10 seconds, and that was it.
he could have did that in shitty draws.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, dude, just stick it out. You're fine. So
Uh,
that was fun.
Good times.
fun conversation. Um, let's get back to the college scene and talk collegiate duels. And I know a couple of man, I want to maybe I'm gonna look at my text here to see when I had found out about this. This was back in July, so July 23rd is when Frank sent us the graphic that is now out for collegiate duels. They have Penn State, Lehigh, Cornell, Stanford, North Dakota State, Little Rock, Illinois, Ohio State, and Iowa State that will be coming to collegiate duels. And a number of these teams have been in the mix before. I think all of them. I think Lehigh, Stanford, and NDSU
North
are the
Dakota.
three
Yeah, they're new.
newcomers. No, and I think Illinois too. So yeah, maybe half the field. Yeah, half the field is new. I was thinking that some of these teams have been here before, but no, half the field is new. Amazing field, and I shared this with you guys. I think back in July. So we've obviously been talking about this for a good bit, and now Collegiate Duels is coming up, and it was my shout out, obviously, because of the loyalty. I'm gonna steer right into it. The loyalty that Frank has honestly shown me and Fretwell and Sean Kenny and the rest of his crew, and his software team at Turniflex. He has not wavered one bit. It is on Flow this year instead of being on Rockfin like it was last year. There was a reason for the pivot. Won't even get into it, but there was a reason for it. but I am really excited about the field. I don't know what I mean, I'm sure if we looked at some of the schedules and things, we can figure out who's wrestling who and whatever else. I don't have them in front of me right now. I'm sure we'll have them pretty soon. But kind of the format, 2-day format, December 20th and 21st in Nashville. You'll have half the teams wrestle on day one, half the teams wrestle on day two. There isn't like, and they'll each have, I think, what is it, three duels in one day. There isn't like there's any sort of crossover, so it's not like pool A and pool B, and then the champion wrestles the champion. Nothing like that. You just get your three duels per day, and that's kind of how it works. But there's amazing wrestling. I love doing the commentary for this event every single year. It's always great wrestling. Like I said, it was in New Orleans a couple of years ago. It switched over to Nashville over this last couple of years. After wrestling, we are able to go get some food and everything else, and it's pretty awesome, honestly, to just go out, hear some live music in Nashville after enjoying some wrestling. But first and foremost, what do you guys think? Kevin, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think of the Collegiate Duals list of teams? So like I said, we got Penn State, Lehigh, Cornell, Stanford, NDSU, Little Rock, Illinois, Ohio State, and Iowa State. What are your thoughts on the field at Collegiate Duals this year?
I mean, I'm really excited about Penn State. Obviously, like one of the big things with the other, collegiate dual championship thing going on is that they're not going to be there. But I'm glad they're obviously going to be at this event. You're going to see some great competition, some other great teams there. So that's going to be fun to see. I mean, assuming that they've got their lineup, they're ready to go, they're sending guys out there. But plus, you might also see some guys who are getting some of their, using this as an event for a redshirt year to not burn that, right? I mean, this is a huge event to be able to get some great matches. Obviously, they've got some pretty great talent, as do a lot of these other programs. So it's going to be really awesome, man. It never disappoints. It's always a good event, always good competition, and I'm very excited about that. I'm excited for ISU as well, for that matter. See what they do without a David Carr on the lineup and everything, to see how competitive that team is and what they're going to be able to do.
Yeah. Austin, your thoughts on the field and how Cornell kind of fares at this event, knowing that they're going to be missing some guys in that first semester.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking through here in my head. I'm not sure if it depends on the school or what the official rule is, but I'm not sure when these guys can compete. Is it the start of the second semester? Is it at the end of the first? Right, because
I
there's
think we
usually
had
a few week break,
there's
right?
some issues with this. I think that it has to be the start of the other class has to have started.
Yeah.
Like they can't just be enrolled. Class has to actually start. There's some issue with this. I feel like last year at this duel, at the Collegiate Duals, where there was some misinterpretation of it and there had to get clarification on it. I may
Yeah.
be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that was the case.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, so yeah, assuming that those a lot of those starters can't wrestle for a semester, it's going to be a lot of, like we talked about last week, just what kind of depth does Cornell have behind these stars that are likely going to qualify for NCAAs, make a deep run, eventually place, and a guy like Meyer Shapiro has his eyes on winning the NCAA title. He's not going to be there first semester either, so might be tough sledding for them, but a good check just to see where some of these guys are at. I think they are a bit of a disadvantage though, because these other schools can bring red shirts along and use some of those dates. Cornell doesn't have that luxury. If these guys are red shirt and they're not even enrolled in school, it's what they call a gray shirt, right? So could be interesting to see what kind of lineup is brought by Cornell. And yeah, it should be interesting. I'm excited to see that. And along with all the other teams too. And you're going to see a lot of great head-to-head matchups in these matches too. 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3, whatever it is. Hopefully we see those, and it'd be a good early season test for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, a lot of for Cornell, it's like what, deferred eligibility, and it sucks that
Yeah.
and I mean for Knox, it's a complete gray shirt. Like he's not even enrolled at Cornell. So
Yep.
it does suck for, when it comes to that. But on the flip side of that, still in the EIWA, Lehigh has a lot of firepower that I don't think we'll see them versus Penn State because they have their own duel
Yeah.
later on in the year, maybe earlier in the year. I can't remember
Yeah, I
when
think it's
that
like
is,
2 weeks
but
before that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
so
just
they
season
do
looking
early in
wrestle
the
at
each other.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that will be a lot of fun. Like, there's obviously not going to be a Penn State and Ohio State either, right? You're not gonna see those duels. So,
so
but
I'm
it is a
looking at
group
the
drop.
matchups now because just playing through WrestleStat, it looks like
Mhm.
we have one pool that is Iowa State, Lehigh, Ohio State, one pool that is Penn State, Stanford, NDSU,
Ooh,
and the
Penn
other one
State,
will be
Stanford.
Illinois, Little Rock, Cornell. So
Nice.
some fun matchups.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Iowa State Lehigh, uh, Ohio State little try will be damn tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, this was where I saw Ben Davino last year. I think he got the majority of the matches last year. I think he wrestled the first and the third bout last year. And looked really good in those matches too. So yeah, hell of a good time to bring in these guys because I think I mean, obviously they're only wrestling one day, so they don't have to worry about it being the 20th and the 21st. You are only getting certain teams on certain days of this event. But Robbie, your thoughts on the field, and I mean, Stanford is the only ACC team in it, but I know you're really excited about what they're bringing this year to the season.
Yeah, I mean, for the history of this event, this is the first year that I think there hasn't been two ACC teams in it. Um, Also, I think the first year NC State hasn't done it as well.
No, they weren't there last year. I was surprised that they
Okay, so
weren't, but I
yeah,
think
it
they
was
did.
UNC and uh Pitt. No, there was two teams there last year too. I don't know. I
UNC
should
was
look back
there.
at it.
Yeah, UNC was there. I think it was Pitt. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure. I
think.
know Pitt was there
Uh,
at some point because Pitt wrestled Iowa State. I remember that Pitt wrestling
hmm,
Iowa State at one of
yeah,
the events over the years. So yeah, but
it
yeah,
all
NC
blends
State does
together.
the other tournament event, so they don't do this one.
Yeah, they have. I don't know, Stanford Penn State is for me is really interesting.
Yeah.
I've been very high on Stanford, and I've been singing their praises and saying how I think they're going to have a really big year. It's a hell of a test to find out, right? So I mean, with the strength of their lineup is their low and mid weights, and they're going to have a hell of a run against Penn State. So it's going to be a really good test to see where they're at. Entire field wise, I mean, you've got great teams from a multitude of conferences. I wish we would see a full strength Cornell team here, but that's not an option. We will get to see the short king in action. So Illinois is a fun addition to this. But in overall, I think it's going to be really fun. There's some really strong teams. Hopefully everybody wrestles their full lineups and we actually get the duels that we could potentially see.
Agreed. Um, any, I know you just kind of read off the duels. Any duels, Rob? I'm gonna come back to you since you have them right in front of you. Any duels that you are, I guess, that you think will be surprisingly competitive, right? There's always, some duels that you're like, there's some matchups here, there's some matchups there, but when it comes down to a dual meet, are there some that you feel can be more competitive than others, or at least like some that people should probably pay attention to that they don't think that they should?
This Lehigh Iowa State duel is one that I keep coming back to. WrestleStat does not have it close. It has it Iowa State 22-9. But if you look at the actual matchups, Poulin and Sheldon Seymour, um, Evan Frost, Ryan Crookham, Anthony Etchemendia, Luke Stanich, Jacob Frost, Kelvin Griffith, Vinny Zerban, and Logan Brzezinski. Like there's Brignola, Riggins. Like there's some damn good matches, and there's none that are really like super lopsided. Um, and then you get Nathan Taylor and Younger Bastida. So like there's some really strong matchups in that one. I think that one will be fun. And same thing. I mean that whole pool, I guess, is kind of what I keep coming back to because Ohio State's going to match up well with both of them as well. And I think every duel in that little pool is going to be really competitive.
Yeah, it should be fun. I mean, I know we said it last year, but 133 at this event specifically could be a lot of fun. Obviously, we won't see Illinois and Ohio State, so we won't really get that Bird versus Davino match. But there is, some potential for Illinois to hit. Do they have Lehigh? Did you say they have Lehigh?
Illinois does not. Illinois have Little Rock and Cornell.
Okay. So we won't really see Bird against really anyone. I mean, the thing for me is like, how does Cornell look, or excuse me, how does Little Rock look without those two big studs in their lineup anymore, right? The guys that have left to go to Iowa, right? And I had a chance to talk to the Little Rock coaches at Elite Eight, and I mean, obviously they're going to be very high on their guys, but he said the guys they have a lot of depth, or maybe not a lot of depth, but they have some good depth. So I'm anxious to see that, right? When you talk to coaches about how the teams are looking and everything else, and they're like, we have a lot of depth and we have some depth and some guys that are going to have to step up, and they're really anxious to see that. So Little Rock is always a team that I'm pretty high on, right? And mostly because that coaching staff is awesome. So it's always really, really cool to kind of see them. Kevin, any matchups that you are looking forward to at this event?
Well, just hearing, I had forgotten flat out that Vinny Zerban was at Iowa State. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vinny Zerban and Steve O'Poulin both went over.
They both left.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to see what both of those guys do. I was leaning into Vinny Zerban for a minute because I'm like, I mean, I don't know. He was one of those guys, what was it, 2 years ago, where he was at NCAAs with a crazy good record, and everybody's like, that's cool, but like, really,
Yeah.
and then it didn't work out. And then last year he gets on the podium, and I'm like, man, like, I don't know if he jumped levels or if he was really that good 2 years ago or what it was, but I'm excited to see him, not to knock anything that Northern Colorado was doing. We've sung their praises on this show, but it's a different room. We talked about RTCs. He's got David Carr now working out with, I'm sure, from time to time. Like, he's got better training partners, I think is safe to say overall. Probably same for Steve-O for that matter. So I'm excited to see what they are going to do, because I don't know why I've always liked the Iowa State. I think it's the robes. I think the robes helped. So,
Well, if you like transfers, that's be a good year for you.
I have nothing against transfers, Robbie.
So-
I think that I'm pretty happy with a lot of the transfers that I've seen this year. Some of them might be wearing maize and blue.
That's valid. I'm looking at their lineup right now, and I knew they had a lot, but I didn't realize the breadth of transfers that they had. They got Poulin, Etchemendia was a transfer at one point. Vinny Zerban is a transfer. Aiden Riggins was a transfer. Isaac Dean, Rocky Elam. I mean, that's what, 7 of the 10 guys were either transferred this year or previous transfers. That's a
Ross
lot.
brothers did commit to Columbia originally too, if we're counting that.
They didn't attend that, right?
No, they just committed.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Probably doesn't count, but
Well, commitments don't mean anything anymore. So we're
no,
good.
that's a good point. Good point.
It only matters where you go,
We saw that this weekend.
not
right?
where you say you're going.
And what you declare your major to be.
That
Yeah,
also
that's-
matters.
Make sure you do that first before
That
you
also
sign the
matters.
papers.
Can't wait to see these majors get declared as
But
well.
I am seeing WrestleStat, Illinois and Lehigh potential duel, which 133. Sign me up for that with Bird and
Oh,
Crookham.
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
They have, they'll use WrestleStat as Bird over Crookham 6-4, but yeah,
Where do they match
145,
up?
41's a good match. 57 will be good with Webster and Rosinski. 65,
maybe
Scholes and Brignola.
Is it that weekend that they wrestle, or is it like another weekend?
It says 12/21 here.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Again, maybe it's just WrestleStat. It is wrong sometimes, but maybe they are wrestling.
That's the only one they have though. So are they doing a second day?
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't have a first day matchup. That's the
That'd be
only one they have
interesting.
listed for that weekend.
That'd be very interesting. I haven't seen teams do both days yet, so maybe that is a added wrinkle this year. We'll certainly find
They're
out.
only listed for the 21st. They don't
Yeah.
have duels against Little Rock.
I'll find out and I'll come back. I'll shoot Frank a text, and come back with it. But let's move to our final topic, and I wanna pull up that tweet so that I'm not paraphrasing.
While you pull it up, Holmes, Lehigh's schedule did drop. They did confirm Iowa State and Illinois in Nashville on the 21st.
There you
Yeah,
go.
now I'm seeing all sorts of different matchups because this one says Little Rock, Ohio State, Little Rock, Cornell. I'm very confused. I need details.
There you go. Well, looks like we will
I
have
know
some
a
fun.
guy.
Looks like we will have some fun. So the tweet that came about by Hawkeye source, and it was there needs to be another weight class between 197 and 285. So the first thing I'll say is when you list the actual weights for those weight classes, it makes it sound worse than it is in reality.
Right.
Because we don't really have guys that are 285. It's very rare that we do have guys that are 285. So it makes it more dramatic when you list it that way. However, as we said with the two-piece singlet, kind of going to steal that argument a little bit, there is some transitions that need to be made. And I feel like instead of, and I think somebody maybe even said this, so I won't even be the one to take credit with it. I'll say that I'm agreeing with somebody who responded in this thread. There's a number of different people that responded in this thread, and I think that there was one of them that said this. I think that they move 184 because it's an asinine weight class. They move 184 to like 190 or 195, and then you move 197 to like 215 or 220, right? So like instead of having a 184 and a 197, you have a 174, and then you have a 190, and then you have a 215. So, and then you have a heavyweight where there's anyone from 215 and above. So maybe it's just making that slide instead of just like outright adding another weight. Because I think the 10 weights that we have, I think 10 weights is perfect. I don't think we need 11. There are go look at the different high school weights that we have. None of them, first of all, none of them match up. So to Earl and the rest of high school rankers, more power to you, because it is absolutely ridiculous the amount of different weights that there are from state to state and how not a lot of them match up. And secondly, there's so many of them. Like there are so many weights in high school, and then we cram them all down into 10. And then for the Olympics, we cram them all down into 6. And it's just like ridiculous. So obviously Olympic weights, argument for a completely different day. But I think we just kind of slide the scale a little bit. Instead of a 184, we have like a 190, and then we have a 215 instead of a 197, and then we have a heavyweight, where I feel like that probably bodes better for us and the natural weights of grown-ass men than anything. And I know that there are probably people going to say, well, grown-ass men don't weigh 125 pounds either. We should probably change that too. That one, for me, that's a little too far for me. I can't do that one. But I can say that the upper weights, 184 is just kind of dumb. Robbie, you look like you got a lot of thoughts, so I'm going to go to you first.
I do have a lot of thoughts.
The good ones, please.
It really limits what I can
Remember,
say.
this is a family show, Robbie.
You lost me a long
The
time
fuck
ago.
it is.
One of my students one time was like, "Hey, I found your podcast. You say fuck a lot." It's like, yeah, it is what it is, man. It's how
Fuck
we
off,
roll.
kid.
Yeah.
Then I kicked him. I don't know. I mean, I don't see the value in adding a weight. I don't think it's beneficial. I don't think that it would make a significant gain in the quality of what we see on the mat. I think the majority of our best heavyweight wrestlers are sitting around like 240, 250.
Mhm.
We're not seeing a lot that are significantly larger, and we don't very rarely have anybody who's pushing 285 or cutting to get to 285. The days of Tab Thacker are very far gone.
Yeah. Who was that
Um,
Hofstra heavyweight that we had a couple years back?
See the one who pooped his pants?
No,
No.
the heavyweight. He asked for a check scale at NCAA's the one year.
Oh, was it Hughes?
Yes,
Yeah.
Hughes.
Big boy.
He was very large. He was very large. Yeah, he asked for a check scale once at NCAA's.
Yeah, and he wasn't fat or chubby. He was just
No,
shredded.
he was just a
Yeah, he
large
was
human
shredded.
being.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a large human being. And I think Gable was like not 285, but Gable I think was like 265 or something like that.
Yeah,
Him and
and that's
Hendrickson were both pretty damn big
And
last year.
Schultz was big. He was probably the
Yeah.
biggest one recently.
Which
yeah,
he
and
needed
they-
to be because of Greco.
Yeah.
but they're still not pushing 285.
Mhm.
I mean, we're looking 270 max for most of these guys. And I could maybe get behind sliding up the weights, but I think if we're going to slide up, 84 and 97, then I think the argument could be made to, if we're going to be redistributing weight classes, like let's kind of shift everything. Let's move 125 up a little bit more so we're not having all these guys cutting their balls off to make 125, and kind of redistribute it a little more where the concentration of weight is and where the concentration of talent is. But I mean, I like where it's at. I I don't know that I could be convinced to actually change it. I think if we were to change it,
change it to like 11 weights or to change
yeah, no,
like weight
I don't
classes
see
in
the
general.
value in that. I don't see the value in adding an 11th weight class. And the tiebreaker, whatever. I mean, go get some bonus points and you won't have ties. It's fine. And I don't know. I guess I don't see the value in changing it. And if it is going to be changed, it needs to be a wholesale change and redistribute weights rather than just shifting up the top two weights or top three weights to make a smaller gap between them. I don't see the value. The only argument I could have that would make sense to me would be to align more closely with freestyle weights and to get like closer to 97, because you have guys, realistically, you can't wrestle 197 pounds and then be competitive at 97 kilos because it's a 20-pound difference or 18-pound difference. But so you got guys who are wrestling heavyweight who are going to be light for the weight because they're cutting 97 kilograms. But other than that, I don't see the value in it.
Yeah. Austin?
Yeah, I've always had this thought. I would like to see how 11 weights works, simply just because, like kind of what Robbie was alluding to, the tiebreakers, it's 5-5. Like I feel like there should be, oh, we won 6 matches, you guys won 5, and without bonus points, we would win kind of thing, instead of going, oh, this team had more takedowns. Tiebreaker number 8 is the winner. But how often does that really happen? I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we need to have more stats on that to make that decision. But I go back and forth on it. I'm okay with where they're at now. And again, I would just like to see how many people actually in the NCAA wrestling, how many people actually weigh over 197 would actually benefit from this weight class, instead of just throwing it in there and filling it in with, lesser talent. Because we see that in high school all the time, right? Holmes, when they added 215 in Pennsylvania, the guys that won states there at 215 weren't very good. They were just too big for 189 or too small for heavyweight. And, nothing against those weights obviously, but
Make sure you tell John Opplinger that next time you see him.
I mean, I'll have his number. I'll text him that, and I think he knows. But yeah, that's a good
It'll
example.
be like,
I was,
yeah, they weren't good.
yeah, but he was good though. But
He
there were
was
some
a
guys,
monster.
and
Him and
as
Josh
you know,
Haynes
there
were
were some guys that win
ridiculous.
215, and you're just like, this guy wasn't that great of a wrestler. He just happened to be in the right weight class. But I don't want to see that kind of version happen to NCAA wrestling, where we're just kind of throwing an extra weight class in there, and you're not getting the quality that you get with these 10 weights. I don't know.
And I think you're right. It looks like a huge jump from 97 to 285. Like on paper, that's a lot. That's a lot of
Yeah.
weight. That's a very large weight range. But when you look at the actual distribution of it, you don't have guys who are weighing 200 pounds and guys who are weighing 282 pounds wrestling each other. You have guys that are pretty firmly in the middle, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah. Kevin?
Yeah, I remember in college, there was a guy in my dorms. A lot of college stories from me today. I'm going to homecoming in a couple weeks. Maybe that's why. And he was a
Chips.
state placer at Fire Up Chips. He was a state placer at Catholic Central in Detroit at 215. And I was like, oh, hey, well, let's get into the open room when we get a chance. And I absolutely beat the shit out of him. And I was aiming at wrestling 141 or 149 or something like that in college. And it was just like, all right, well, 215, that's fun. Must have been great. Anyway, there's no advantage really. I think like a lot of these heavyweights, I think it was Tommy. Oh man, I can't believe I'm blanking on his last name. Ohio State. Rollins. Tommy Rollins. Yeah. All I could think of was Hendrickson, another giant jacked heavyweight dude. But anyway, Rollins had said like he wins a national title beating Mako, and then I think the next year he tried to add some weight so he could like match some of the power and size, and he just couldn't move as well. And so then he dropped the weight again and beat him again, So it was like, there's not this advantage to being massively huge. So I think that's why you see a lot of these guys moving around as well as they do in that 240 to 250, 260 range, depending on who you're talking about. Like they're not just at the pizza buffet, just getting fat because they're like, well, I as long as I'm not over 285, I'll be good. There's also a lot of big guys that drop down. It makes sense. If you're bigger, you have possibly more weight and fat to lose. I think it was Luke Serber who used to be a heavyweight at Oklahoma State and then dropped down into 197. You saw Christian Carroll do it the last 2 years, not with great success, but I'm just saying like they're bigger. You can usually lose a little bit of that weight. And if you can't make it to 197, then you're not a 197 pounder. So I think that's pretty safe to say, right? So I don't think there is a need. If there was going to make an argument to make that change, I agree with Robbie. Like make it match up as closely to the world championship weight classes as there are. Adding an 11th weight class, I've literally never heard a good argument until Austin just made like the criteria argument. It's like, but I don't want to do that to dilute the pool either. You know what I mean? I'd rather just.
I'd rather every 3 years it happens.
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather just have a dual end and be like, holy shit, what's going to happen? I have no idea. I've never looked at criteria once in my life, and I will never. That's someone else's job to figure out. So, yeah, that's it. I think that it's fine the way it is.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned that in discussing criteria, is it BJJ maybe does a competition or like a team competition where if it's a tie, they send out like randomly choose one of the weights for them to wrestle again, and that's the tiebreaker.
Oh,
That was going to happen at some event.
That would be awesome.
The RAF tag team.
What event?
God damn it!
What event was going to do that? I wish I could remember. There was an event that was.
It wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah, it was recent.
I remember what you're talking about.
It was recent. Man, I wish I could remember what event it was where they were going to pick a match.
Was it Oklahoma State versus Japan?
Maybe.
I think it was because I think it was
something like that.
We were getting our butts kicked, and then the Oklahoma State guys came back, and then it was like, "Hey, this doesn't ever happen."
Yeah,
but this might happen.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
It'd been cooler if anybody knew about it, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of big guys cutting down, I remember when Ty Walls cut.
Yeah.
And he was I mean, this is obviously like freestyle. I don't think it wasn't folk style, but like when he cut down, I was like, this man is a monster.
Yeah, Ty's
and then
huge.
Like I remember I think talking to maybe it was the Virginia Tech coaches or something. They're like, if you ever need a weight plan, like a diet plan, Ty Walls is the man to go to. Like he is so in tune with everything he's eating. Like he did it all like that's why he's absolutely shredded. Right? Like he was a absolute monster. I remember when he cut down, I was like, this man looks like he just rips phone books.
That's why he wears tiny pants.
Weren't you sworn to not say that anymore?
No, because that was in regard to a position that he didn't take. So now I get to make fun of his pants again because he didn't take that job.
Yeah, there you go.
So, ergo, I love Ty, but he wears tiny pants.
I'm gonna make sure to post this clip so that he sees this.
That's
and
fair. I mean, he
he
has my
rips you in
number.
half like a tiny phone
He
book.
might. That's very possible.
Very, very possible.
The one other that just jumps to mind right now, Mike McMullen. I mean, that guy was eating a ton to get up to heavyweight and maintain that size.
And now he weighs 141.
Right, yeah.
He runs marathons for fun.
He's
Yeah.
Now he's very svelte. But
He
I
wears
feel like
cardigans too.
I mean, he has the brains to wear a cardigan.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
No,
I'll
it's a
allow it.
pullover. Thanks for noticing.
Well done. Damn, my man, I didn't think of that. That's
I
good.
feel like if we did slide the weight classes a little bit, the first person that would have benefited this year is Ferrari. Like,
I was just gonna say, looking at the brackets, he's probably the only guy that would benefit from a weight class because everyone else, yeah, they were big for 97, but not like need an extra weight class.
He was very
Ferrari
big
was
at
very
97.
big.
very big. Like,
He looks huge now too. Like,
even now, I feel like he would benefit from like a 215. I feel like he would have been probably still had to cut, right? I feel like he's probably like a 225, 230 ish, but he's also eating like 8 steaks a day is what he said. But I feel like he would be kind of the perfect guy for that 215 if college had that weight class, right? But like, I don't know. I can maybe in the years to come, because we've seen them shift weight classes in college. This wouldn't be the first time, right? The college weights have been, I mean, it's been 134 in the past. Like, I feel like they need to be kind of more round numbers, honestly, and as well, like line up with our international weight classes. But yeah, we'll certainly see kind of how things shake out, if ever, on the weight class front. But I don't think that they need to add another weight class. I think it's an argument and a conversation that has been had, I think, a lot over the years. And, Hawkeye source putting it out, not a bad topic, obviously, as we're finishing discussing it, but I also don't think that we need an 11th weight class in college. I also don't think that we need 14 or 13 in high school either. So I get it. It's inclusion. We want to bring everybody in.
Yeah, but there's too many damn empty weight classes, and that's a conversation for another day.
I feel like we run into that a lot on the high school level, is you just have more forfeits instead.
Or you're plugging people in who have no business being at that weight. And it's
not if we had 2-piece singlets though. Then you'd fill those weight classes out real easy.
Look at that. Show comes full friggin' circle, because that's just how we do it. Just how we planned it. Just how we drew it up. But that is it. That is a wrap for episode 22, the Emmitt Smith episode. Another fun one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you're going to get back into those comments and make sure you're liking and sharing as well as subscribing. I had a friend of mine, the person I've talked about before, Angelo DeLeo, who says, like, he's like, I love your show. How do we get you more followers? I'm like, I think we'll come around to that as the season comes around. Like, the diehard wrestling fans are diehard college fans. They're not really international fans. When the season is off, they kind of flip a switch and they're out. But I do appreciate all the followers that we do have, all the people that do comment, send us DMs or anything else. Definitely keep us in the loop on all things that are going on in your neck of the woods. Also, something to go back to. I know somebody commented maybe a couple weeks ago and asked if we're on any forums or anything, or are we just kind of lurking? I have not been on a forum since high school. I went on one. I told you guys this. I went on a forum when I was back in high school, saw people talking shit on me and some of my teammates, and got really pissed off and was like, this is not a place for me, because this is most likely, it's a bunch of faceless and nameless people, just like Twitter is now. And I was like, definitely not where I parked my car. And I deleted it and was out of there pretty quickly. Are any of you guys on forums at all? Are you commenting or anything else?
I go into lurk every once in a while. I know Intermat has a pretty good one. I don't post. I just see what people are talking about, and I'm on the Lehigh one a lot too. There's that's one I'd like to stay away from because they get pretty negative on there sometimes. I'll probably get hate for saying that, but just saying stuff about these kids. They're kids, man. Mistakes happen. It's not their day, whatever. I get it, but
The
some
one to
people
stay
get
out
it.
of is Hawkeye Report, from what I hear.
Yeah,
That
that's a
one.
bad one. Yeah, that's
That
way worse.
one.
That's way worse. Yeah.
You get
See,
ripped apart in that one.
That's what I would want to go see. I stay away from them, but like, yeah, is there a car accident? Let's drive by it real slow.
That-
Keep those eyes wide open.
Yeah, from what I've seen, like I said, I don't go on forums, but obviously I worked with Willie for a number of years, and he is the lover of all things type on a screen and not have to get into a fight. So, or at least get into a wordplay fight on social media or forums or whatever else. And I would sit and like watch him on some of these forums or like dig through them. And I mean, there are some good things where you're finding out, an up and coming kid or whatever else for his purposes of ranking and stuff. But it's just a cesspool in there. So I'm
I
not a
think there's
forum guy, and I don't think I ever
yeah.
will be.
The anonymity and the ability to just talk shit without repercussions, I think is a disservice in a lot of ways. And I think we see a lot of that on social media, and people say a lot of things that they would not say to somebody's face. And I think
Because people
there's
don't have to get hit in the face anymore. That doesn't
yeah,
happen.
that's
There's no more sidewalk fights or get home before the street lights or
yeah.
or
I
what
just
was
think
that?
it's
Throw it up and tackle game. There's no block chase. Like there's a lot of things that don't exist anymore where you feared for your life for talking shit on the playground. People don't do that anymore. So
yeah.
forums
I
have
don't know,
now
it's just
stepped in.
it's yeah. I just hate seeing like if you have something to say, put your name behind it, say it with chest.
Just
That's I
like
mean
Robbie
it's
did
that
to Ty
simple.
Walls.
Yeah, I'll tell him right now. I'll call him as soon as we're done. Tell him he wears tiny pants.
There you
I'm not
go.
above that.
Yeah. I mean, that is something, and I know I've said it a number of times of like, we're not going to say anything on this show that we wouldn't say to anybody's face. We're also not going to get into like confrontations in the comment section of our show either. Like, and
Nope.
for the most part, everybody comes in and they're respectful. I think we've had some people kind of try and talk shit. You'll never really get a rise out of any of us trying to be a keyboard warrior.
Unless you mention a tag team match.
Yeah, that's the
I
only
might do
way
it.
you get Robbie. Now, if you step to me in my face or any of us are, that's where the problems will probably persist. But no, I mean, talking shit on Twitter and Facebook and social media comments or forums or whatever else, it won't happen. So no, you won't really find any of us posting in forums or anything else. But if there is something that happens in there that you think we should be aware of, send it to us. Maybe we'll take a peek, right? Send us a link and say, hey, they're talking about you guys in here, or hey, the topic you guys discussed, or maybe it's something you guys want us to discuss here on the show, right? But we're not going to find it from seeking it out.
If you see somebody with the username FireUpChips69, it's not me.
You're
No,
Fire Up
yeah.
Chips 420.
Oh man, amazing. Like I said, always fun with this gaggle of morons, but we have a good time. Hopefully you guys have a good time listening and watching. We appreciate it. Shout out to our sponsors, Poseidon Strength and Adidas Wrestling. Make sure you are using those discount codes. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all those fun things, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.